Welcome to the Workshop Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, and joining me today is Mr. Jamie Harpster, President, CEO, and I guess I should just go for it and say the trump card of plain wellness, making hand tools great again in America. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Like we were talking about in the pre-show, I've been going down this rabbit hole recently of hand tool as craft and as a means of kind of regaining your empowerment and sense of self and all of that type of stuff. And it seems like your mission to plain wellness kind of coincides with that fairly well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization? You don't have a massive, huge social media following yet, and I can guarantee after this show you'll probably see a bump of like one or two people.
Awesome. That's awesome. We'll take it.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about Plain Wellness?
Yeah, so we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to improve mental wellness through woodworking, and we do this by offering virtual and in-person woodworking courses. Those courses can be free to any adult or veteran with a diagnosis or disability because we want to make learning woodworking more accessible, because the better that you learn the craft, the more peace, joy, and accomplishment that you're going to feel in the shop.
So for those of us who are not Americans, a 501c, that's a registered charity then?
Yes,
so you're
yes. Tax exempt, yep. And donations are tax write-offs.
Okay, so anybody in the United States who's listening currently who has lots of extra money and needs a tax write-off before tax season, which is, you guys are the middle of April, aren't you?
Yeah, they would have a very short amount of time. They'd have like 15 days.
That'd be last year's taxes anyway. But
yeah. Oh, yeah, it would. So it would count for this year's taxes that you file next year.
Yeah, taxes so just give all of your money to Plain Wellness, and then you won't have to pay taxes on it.
I like that.
But so how long have you been running that as an organization?
Yeah, we were founded in June of 2023. I think it was June 16th of 2023. The courses started in January of 2024. So we're now in our third year of operations, and we're coming up on our third year anniversary.
And so what was kind of your impetus of beginning that?
Yeah, my background's in the mental health field. I have my master's in human services counseling. I've been in the field since about 2014, and I've just always kind of been passionate about mental health. Most of my background's been working with kids. For a while there, I was working in something that's called a diversion and stabilization unit, where we work with teenagers who have either attempted suicide or we're trying to prevent them from attempting suicide. They come to us as a stabilization point before returning back to their home. And then in about 2018, I discovered woodworking and just how peaceful it was, how much of a break it was from that tough mental health job. I'm also diagnosed with ADHD, so it really helped me learn to slow down my anger, become more patient, just a safe space. So then I was trying to figure out how can I combine my two passions, which is woodworking and mental health. One of the days I just couldn't sleep, and at 2 a.m. a light bulb went off and said, what happens if we give out free courses? And I think it was the next week or the week later, I just went for it. I just said, let's see what happens. And I mean, it has advanced so fast that it clearly showed me there was a need and there was a want for this in the community.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you told me you have an ADHD diagnosis. I was going to say that's like the classic flow state sort of thing going on there. You know, like, ooh, this is my area of interest. Now I'm going whole hog in it.
Exactly, and that's, I think, what I find interesting the most about woodworking is it is the only hobby in my life that has stuck. I have tried clay working, I've tried painting, I've tried drawing, I played instruments for a while. I can't sing, but I acted in plays. I tried so many. I did tattooing for a little bit, tried so many different hobbies. None of them stuck. But then when I discovered woodworking, it's stuck. And it's stuck for years now that I know it's going to stay around. And I haven't exactly figured out why, but part of me thinks it is because it's so grounding, so peaceful, brings joy, and there's always something to learn. Because the ADHD mind is constantly going. So if you figure out a hobby, you're done with it then. If you're not learning more, you're pretty much done. With woodworking, there's always something more that you can keep gaining knowledge on.
Yeah, or you can approach it from a different perspective. Although I have to step back a second and kind of push back on your tattooing hobby. Number one, I would have never thought of that as a hobby. Like that seems like kind of an out
it was a hobby.
And second of all, doesn't it by default stick?
Yes. Except I did tattoo my fingertips because I don't even know why, but I tattooed my fingertips, and that's where I used to practice, and those were gone because I would practice small, intricate details, and those are completely rubbed off now. But yeah, we had a tattooing party at my house. I tattooed my uncles and my cousins, and they're stuck. And some of them look good, not all of them.
That's one of those things where I wonder is like, how do you talk somebody into giving them a tattoo? It's like, yeah, I'm a hobbyist tattoo artist. It's like, are you any good? No, not yet. You're my first
Yeah,
client.
yeah. They agreed. There may or may not have been alcohol involved.
That was going to be my next question. How much?
May or
How
may
much
not.
did you get them liquored up before they?
Yeah.
Like, how many of them came back afterwards? I'm like, man, your party was awesome, but I woke up with this crazy tattoo. Do you know where it came from?
I had one do that. But then he remembered later that he asked for it. We both reviewed the spelling and it was spelt wrong. But we both may or may not have had a little bit of alcohol. But I gave up the hobby after that. I said, yeah, you know what? If I can't spell, I probably shouldn't be tattooing people.
That's like that. I saw. It's like one of those little comics on social media the other day. It's like this guy's on the tattoo bench and the guy's on his back, and you can kind of see half of the image, and it's very suggestive. And the character is the guy getting the tattoos is like, man, I can't wait to see these tentacles. They're gonna look so awesome. And the tattoo artist, tentacles?
Yeah. That's good. It wasn't that bad.
That's good. Anyway, speaking of ADHD and totally diverting and going off topic,
That's okay. It happens.
I agree with you on the like going back to the woodworking as a to an extent. When you're a beginning woodworker though, it can be very frustrating and difficult. And so is that kind of where you thought that maybe offering classes and stuff would be a way to get over that initial hump?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head because I work in the mental health field. So, I mean, that's not a huge earning job that I can travel around to all of these expensive woodworking courses to learn stuff. So, really, the only option I was left with was YouTube, which caused me to break a window in my house because I got so frustrated. Who knows how that happens? You know what I mean? But, anyways, so what I realized is there's really nothing in between. It's either YouTube, where you get no direct feedback, or it's expensive woodworking courses. You got to pay for the course, you got to pay for food, pay for travel, take time off of work, all that kind of stuff. So, why don't we have live virtual courses where people can just log onto their computer and join that community and learn at the same time? I really think the first of our kind bridging that gap. I know there are some people where you can like purchase courses from them and then email and maybe get feedback, but why can't we just have them live and have a teacher right there working with you so you can actually learn and have things click? Because if we make learning more accessible to where people understand how to do certain things, that's when they have less anger, more joy, more peace in the shop, which is what's going to help their mental wellness.
Yeah, yeah. As I'm sure you know, Mark Spagnolo,
Yep.
the wood whipperer,
Yep.
I've had him on here a couple times, and I'm a guild member with him, and I enjoy the way he does things. Like, but they're very it's a very laid out project specific sort of course. Is that kind of what you guys are doing, or are you more like a fundamentals? Now you can apply this in your own home.
All of the above. I consider us a live YouTube because we've done everything from this is how you sharpen a plane iron to actually building stools. We've built boxes. We've done like how to use a tool. James Wright this last weekend just did one that was how to use a combination plane because those can be tricky. Then we've done things like carving. We've done a lot of marquetry with Albert Klein. So it really is everything across the board. And we've done things from beginner to intermediate as well.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I know I've heard of Plain Wellness prior to reaching out to you because I do follow James Wright, and I've run across you're involved in Hand Tool Haven quite a bit too, aren't you?
That's our event.
Is your event?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
our
exclusively
fundraising.
yours.
That's our annual fundraising event. Yep.
Okay, I misunderstood the connection there when I was reading it because I know it's on your Facebook or on your Instagram feed there a lot. And okay, so now I'm starting to connect some dots here in my head. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that.
You heard about us before.
Yeah, heard about you before, but never really looked into it too much. But then in a pre-show, you said that a lot of your, like, obviously it's the charity end of it is focused on people with mental disability, mental illness type of problems, or
Yeah, so we
veteran PTSD, that type of stuff. But
yep.
then the other side of that, like the funding then comes from selling the courses to people who don't need support but still want to learn.
Yes. Yeah, because even if you don't have a diagnosis, you can improve your mental wellness. So if you're able to learn woodworking more, again, you can still improve your mental wellness. But the students who don't have a diagnosis that pay for our courses make it possible for us to pay our teachers. So our teachers want to keep teaching so we can offer those free courses to the other students. And that's really because when you look at nonprofits, a lot of people think, well, nonprofits aren't supposed to profit. Everything is supposed to be free. And that's just not the case. Nonprofits need to have some sort of income or they're going to be fully reliant on donations, which is when you see all of these nonprofits crumble. So what we do is we have courses as one of our revenue streams, and the goal for that is essentially to zero out at the end of the year. What we earn on courses is going into supplies for those courses and to paying our teachers. So again, they want to stick around with us. Then you can add other revenue streams like our merchandise line. We have our Hand Tool Haven fundraising event, and then of course donations and grants. But they got to have multiple revenue sources, and courses is one of our main ones.
So then here's going back again to our pre-show. You said that as the president CEO of Plain Wellness, you haven't drawn a paycheck at all. This is all full-time job for you in addition to your full-time job.
Yep. Yes.
How does that factor into your ability to not burn out? Like you said, if it's all donation, then yeah, they fail. At what point? Well, what do you do to maintain your ability to keep going then?
That's where I'm trying to get into carving. I'm trying to find ways to still incorporate woodworking into my life, even if that means I'm sitting in this chair 12 to 18 hours a day, every single day, all week, all month, everything like that. The other thing that significantly helped is the team of people that have stepped up to help. I know the first year it truly was a one-man show. I was at this by myself and just trying to figure everything out. But fast forward to now, we have a finance committee, operations committee, operations strategy committee, Hand Tool Haven committee. We've got some board members that are becoming more active. We have a whole bunch of moderators helping us with the course. So being able to, even if it's taking small things off my plate, like we're working with Ashley Piper, she's Shallow Creek Woodcraft. She's helping with our social media posts. And it sounds like something so minor that she's just typing up a post, but taking little things off my plate has been a huge improvement that is truly preventing me from burning out, because if it was like it was the first year, there's no way we would have made it this long. So it's the community that's making that possible.
Yeah. And so it's all kind of coming together. And I think a lot of people recognize that need for the ability to apply yourself at something. And I think that's where, like, COVID, you see that post-COVID explosion in woodworking.
Yep.
I don't know how many times you watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast now where it's like, yeah, I had never picked up a tool, and then COVID happened, and now I'm a professional furniture maker.
Exactly.
I wonder how much of that is like this. We don't know what we don't know until we experience it, right? And so we have these people who are just in the we've been funneled into this career ladder of success sort of narrative. We've chosen to, the path to success is you graduate high school, then you go to university and get a degree, and then you get a job for some Wall Street company that takes advantage of you until you're 65 years old. Then you retire, and then you have a heart attack at 70, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yep.
We've been funneled into that treadmill, but then it creates this existential fear of like, I don't know how to survive if the world, especially, in the current climate. I imagine that there's a lot of anxiety around when is the nuclear bomb getting dropped or something. And I wonder how much of that emphasis in learning how to do things with woodworking specifically is giving people comfort and confidence in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of that is... Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I think a lot of that is kind of what we hinted at in the pre-show too, of there's so many things out of our control. We have no control over if a bomb's going to drop tomorrow. We are too small. Same when it comes to politics, same when it comes to all this stuff. We are too small. It's all out of our control. Taxes are out of our control. Registering your car is out of our control, everything. But if we can have a craft or have a hobby that we choose to spend our time on, that's within our control. We can choose to build a plane. We can choose to make a box. We can choose to throw away our table and build a new one. That's something in our lives that we can control, where you can't control your job. So hopefully you can at least go home, engage in your hobby, and that's where you can have any sense of control in the way that this world is now. I think that's why it's so beneficial too.
Yeah. What do you said veterans specifically, and I'm assuming that includes first responders, police, firefighters, that type of stuff,
It's
anybody with any sort of PTSD sort of thing.
Yes. Yep. Any adult, and I know there's a lot of programs out there that like limit, you have to be within this specific category. We pretty much open the doors wide open. It's any adult 18 years or older, any veteran 18 years or older that has a diagnosis or disability, period.
How have you seen, or what's the feedback that you've got in that group of people who have experienced trauma and stuff? What's their feedback about how it's helped them?
Many of them have told me that it saved their lives, especially with veterans, because before going into the military, they had peace. Going into the military, they lost that peace. So when they come home, they're pretty much dropped. There's not a lot of planning on the military side. They just sign to say, okay, you're done. And then they send you on your way, and then good luck getting help in the VA. So they don't experience that peace anymore. But they go into that shop and they finally experience the peace that they haven't felt since prior to the military. And it gives them just that accomplishment again, that they feel like they're worthwhile again, that they feel like they're a badass again. Because I think that's a lot of what military veterans or even police or law enforcement run into, is if they get injured or they leave or they retire, they don't feel that badassery anymore, if that's an actual word, but you know what I mean. And woodworking kind of restored that for them. And many of them told me it saved their lives because woodworking is that powerful. And I think more and more people need to recognize that.
Yeah, that does. I never thought about it from that aspect. I don't know if you've ever heard the joke. How do you know if somebody's or if somebody's a firefighter? They'll tell you that they're a firefighter.
Yeah, true.
Right. So that being said, I used to be a firefighter.
Okay.
And anyway, it's now that you say that, like, that actually really makes sense. That there's lots of people who get into those careers because like, oh,
Yep.
this is
Man,
me. I'm a manly man.
Hear me roar, yeah.
And it's not 100% selfish by any means. Like, it's
No,
like
because you're
firefighters
sacrificing
and
yourself for
police
the
and
community. Yeah, but you still
yeah,
have
exactly.
that it's innate within, not to get too far into gender roles, but it's innate and it's biological. Males want to be the protector, so you get into those roles and you are the protector, and you feel this power from it, but not in a selfish way. We're biologically driven to protect people. So you get into those roles and you feel that way, and you leave those roles and you kind of lose that because you're not in that role anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Like, woodworking is one of those inherently manly things, and it's not to alienate anybody. Everybody can be a woodworker,
Yep.
and there's lots of
women are better
phenomenal
woodworkers. Women are better woodworkers. Have you ever heard this before?
I haven't, but I can. There are some really fantastic female woodworkers.
Go look at. I looked into this a little bit just because I'm interacting more and more with the community, and you look at women's woodworking, and it's more creative. It's more thinking out of the box. It's more artistic. It's more that kind of thing. When you look at a lot of male woodworking, it's copying some sort of old tradition of woodworking. It's bringing back the historical and then maybe adding a little flair to it, where women tend to think way more out of the box. So we definitely need more women woodworkers, so it's not just repeating history of furniture over the years.
Yeah, that's. Did you ever listen to the American Craftsman podcast at all? They're off the air now, but they had a great show. One season they went through the history of American furniture, and did a great job of just like showing the evolution of furniture. And you're spot on with the, like, we need somebody to think outside of the box, because it really was like, okay, here's a table with 4 legs, and then the next iteration is here's a table with 4 tapered legs.
Exactly.
And then the next iteration is there's a tapered leg with a ball on it now.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah, and anyway, I often wonder, like, how do you end up encouraging people who say that, like, I don't have a creative bone or whatever, or I'm afraid of tools, or whatever the case may be. How do you end up encouraging people to, well, give it a try? You might find that this is actually very therapeutic for you.
I don't always want to generalize that to woodworking, because not everybody is going to be a woodworker. But there are other hobbies out there that still have the same sort of piece, joy, and accomplishment that you can feel from knitting. There's people that'll sit there and knit, and to me, I would lose my mind if I just sat there and knit for hours on end. But to some people, that is so peaceful for them. So I wouldn't necessarily encourage them to, you have to try woodworking, even though I'm biased and would want to say yes, but they need to find something that brings them peace, joy, and accomplishment. And the only way that you're going to do that is taking the first step. Try it. Whether it's watching some YouTube videos, taking a class somewhere about something, going to a local makerspace and just seeing kind of what it's all about, but find your niche, because with that niche, that's when you get the peace, joy, accomplishment, and the community, which are vital to a happy life.
Yeah, I think that's the community aspect of it, though. I think is a very interesting thing to think about with woodworking, though, because you can make stuff for yourself, but it almost feels like there is most projects that I have made feel incomplete until they've been shared with somebody. I don't know if you experienced that or not.
Absolutely, because that's human nature. Most woodworkers are introverts. Most of the time we're alone in our shops, and we love being alone in our shops, but we still want to post on Facebook, and we still want people to see, look what I built, crappy or not. If it's a beautiful project, great. You still want to share what you've done because you are proud of that accomplishment. And again, human nature, we want that feedback. We can't help it. That's how we are. Getting engaged and getting connected in that community is very important for just well-being of everybody, introvert or not. It's important that you're interacting with other people.
Yeah. Speaking of interacting with other people, tell me about Hand Tool Haven. Like I've never actually looked into it all that much. I've been, because again, I'm in the middle of nowhere, northern Alberta, Canada. So
you can fly. There's planes. There's planes that. Just so you know,
it's still so to put you into perspective of middle of nowhere for me. It's an hour and a half drive for me to the nearest regional airport.
Okay.
And it is a 4-hour drive for me to the nearest international airport.
Okay.
So
you are pretty remote then.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not. I'm just going to hop onto the airplane. It's a day commitment for me to drive to the airport and back.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. So Hand Tool Haven
that being said,
go ahead.
That being said, you are correct. There are airplanes. Anyway, back to tell me about Hand Tool Haven. What all happens and what do you do?
Yeah, so I want to give a little background on it first, because normally with nonprofits, they have something that's called a gala. You get fancy in a suit and tie, and you go have a fancy dinner, and you raise a bunch of money for the charity. Most of our community is not fancy, and most of us don't like putting on suits and ties. So we decided to just have a big woodworking event. So we're going to have about 30 different vendors this year. We have about 14 different demonstrators. We're going to have raffles and silent auctions. That's where our main funding comes from. And it's just a giant 2-day nerd fest of woodworking.
So it's like Comic-Con for woodworkers.
That's it. Yep. Have you heard of Handworks? The show in Iowa? So we want to replicate the same thing, but on the East Coast, and just incorporate more demonstrations so there's more hands-on learning, because we're all about woodworking courses.
Okay. And I think in my head, I had you both kind of confused as one and the same, just kind of, which I guess is good for your branding, because that's what you want. Just to, although I guess you want them to be confused for you, not you confused for them.
I'm okay with that, but I love that show too, because I want them to keep this. Their last one was in 2023. They're coming back this year, and that's actually why we needed to move our event to May, because we're not competition for them. They've been doing it forever,
Yeah.
But I do think there should be more woodworking shows. I don't want one to overpower the other. I want there to be more of them, because maybe somebody's not going to travel to ours, but if they live in Iowa, they'll go to that one, and they'll still get that community and that connection there. So we need more of them. And hopefully one day I'll do a West Coast show.
Well, I'll be there on the West Coast show.
There we go.
It's only, I live 11 hours north. If I could drive in a straight line, I live 11 hours north of the U.S. border.
Oh, okay.
So being able to drive to Washington, Oregon, it's still a 14, 16-hour drive for me, but that's a lot more doable than across the other side of the country.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So do you mainly focus on hand tools or in your classes and stuff?
We do. Yeah. And so specifically for our in-person courses, Shay Alexander did a shop stool build. We cut the seat out on a bandsaw versus trying to handsaw around shape when you're trying to fit a 3-day course in. So we do recognize that it saves time, but we do make sure that hand tools are primarily used in all of our courses.
Well, there's the use of tools too. That so my son has autism. Before we moved here and started building this house, I had I'll say it's a pretty nice shop. It wasn't huge. It was 25 by 40.
Okay.
So it was, decent size, but not huge.
Yep.
And I had all my nice tools. I had my CNC and my saw stop and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he never really wanted to come out to the shop because it was loud. But then since we're here, I have what we call the murder shed in the woods because it looks kind of sketchy. It's a building. I should actually do a better job of promoting my own YouTube stuff because I think this was a legitimately cool video. We had this old building on another part of the farm where we jacked it up and I put 2 power poles underneath it and we tied the power poles to an axle, and then we picked up the front end of the building with a skidder and drove the building down the road.
That's awesome.
To where we're building our house. And so we set this whole building back there, and that's where my solar power batteries are and all that stuff, but it's also my shop. And so it's nice and quiet in there, and I mostly just have my hand tools in my tool chest right now because I can't do anything. But my son was bored, and he went out there and planed a piece of poplar with a hand plane, and I don't know if he's wrecked my blade yet or not, but he's out there and, oh, I really like this. This is, it's nice and calming and it's quiet and.
Well, it hits all the senses, and I think that's something that only woodworkers who have taken the time to stop and think about it have realized. Woodworking hits pretty much all of your senses, maybe not taste unless you accidentally get sawdust in your mouth or something like that, but you get the tactile feedback, you get the sound, you get the sight of seeing all the different colors. I mean, it hits all of the senses, and that is so grounding, especially for people that are on the spectrum, people with ADHD. I mean, even depression and anxiety, everything, it grounds you. It gets you in that moment. It gets you focused on a singular thing, so your brain's not going wild about how messy the world is or anything like that. You're right there. You're in the moment, and sometimes that's all somebody needs to feel better, is to just be in that moment for 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I had my shop set up the way I wanted it, there were definitely times when I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed out.
Yep.
Just go out to the shop and put a random piece of wood in the wood vise and take a few passes.
Plane a board,
with the hand plane. It's like completely pointless.
Yep, but that's okay.
But it's like, okay, it's like that social media meme where all the voices are in your head and then you do the thing and then it's dead silent. It's very true.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do that a lot. I mean, I can't even tell you how many boards I turned into shavings just because I needed to do something. And I know with woodworking too, part of the thing we like about it is it keeps your brain engaged if you are at work thinking about a project that you're going to be working on or the next project coming up or something you did in the past. So it keeps you active that way. But sometimes your work is so overwhelming or something happens in your life that's so overwhelming, you don't want to think. So you can just go down, grab a hand plane is sharp, plane a board. Grab a chisel, chop a mortise for no reason at all. It's amazing. It's healing. So definitely that people need to. Even if it's 15 minutes a day, go do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I started a project that, again, my undiagnosed, but probably their ADHD. It's I set my plane too heavy one time, and it wouldn't be a 1/16 of an inch, but getting close, like a pretty heavy shaving.
Yeah.
But the board was just perfect. And it was just peeling up and doing these beautiful, perfect curls and nice and tight little circles.
Yep.
And I just kept going and going and going. And I had this big pile of these perfect wrapped up circle shavings. And then I started kind of interweaving them together.
Nice.
And so I had this, it was probably about, I don't know, 4 to 6 inch circle of all of these plane shavings kind of tied into each other. Mm-hmm. And it looked really cool. And then I was going to forget what I was going to do with it. I think I thought about like filling with epoxy or something or doing something just to kind of turn it into this artwork and then put it aside. Never did.
That happens too. I have many unfinished projects in the shop, but I'm happy they're there. Maybe one day we'll get back to them.
Yeah. But anyway, going back to kind of the beginning of this particular sidetrack, hand tools versus power tools. I think that there's some tools, like a bandsaw is a good example of a bandsaw is not a particularly loud tool, but it does speed up the process, like
Yep.
versus hand planing, and it's such a versatile machine
Yep.
as well. Like if you have a bandsaw and a hand plane, you really don't need a table saw for solid wood furniture
Nope. I sold my
or
table
solid
saw.
wood projects.
Yeah, I started out with one of those DeWalt folding contractor saws, and I said, I need to advance. So I got one of the Laguna F2's cabinet saws, and I used it maybe 2 to 3 times a year. And I said, what's the point? So I sold the table saw, got a bandsaw, and I haven't looked back. I haven't been upset about it at all. I will say, though, if you're going to be making like a big table or a giant piece of furniture, it is nice to have a planer and a jointer versus doing all of that by hand, because power tools save time. So there are certain things where I'm like, man, I wish I had a planer. Just run all these boards through and be done with them, you know?
The first house I renovated is the first house my wife and I, or I guess it was the second house my wife and I bought. We renovated the kitchen, and I made a butcher block countertop.
Nice.
And this will enrage all the woodworking purists out there. So I had a sawmill as well, because, I'm an idiot.
You need your own. You're too remote. You can't drive to get lumber all the time. Make your own.
Well, this is one of those like brags that I got the sawmill for. Like, I basically stole it. And when I got it, my grandpa is like, apparently I'm like the 8th generation or the 5th generation, something like that, to have a sawmill in the family.
That's awesome.
And so there's a mental deficiency somewhere in my family. But anyway, so I had these big massive fir trees that on our property, on our ranch, and I cut them down, milled them up, and so I built my butcher block countertop out of fir, not a hardwood. So it'd be enrage some people, but
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, I glued up this countertop, and it was too big to fit through my planer, and so I did it's like 14 linear feet or more of countertop with my hand plane in my living room. But yeah, that was a workout for the upper body.
Oh yeah.
My planes were sharp, and the fur was like super easy to plane, so
Good.
it wasn't too terrible.
Good. It's not something you'd want to do again, though, right?
No.
Yeah. See,
No.
you got to find a makerspace and have one of those wide planers you should take it to next time.
Well, it's my neighbors actually they have a cabinet shop.
Oh, perfect.
And so they have a 24-inch helical head planer, and they have a 36-inch drum sander.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. So and a 5x. They have a 4x8 CNC and a 5x10 CNC.
You're set.
Oh yeah.
You can't ever move now. If they're your neighbors, you're locked in for life. I just hope you know that.
Yeah. Well, and it's good too, because I'm a little bit more technologically knowledgeable than they are.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Hutterites before. So they're kind of like the Amish.
Okay.
Except they're fine with tech. They're a religious community, and they're mostly they're all farmers, but they have these, some of them will have a cabinet shop, and some of them will have a concrete company or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're constantly, they found out that I had a CNC before they got their CNC, and so then they're constantly asking me, well, what about this? How do you do this? What's this? And like, well, at this point, you're way more competent than me on that tool. But yeah, I recently helped him get a 3D printer.
Nice.
Got that all set up, and so then they're constantly giving me these projects of, hey, can you design this? Can you make this? Can you do this?
Trade knowledge for use of their tools.
Yeah, and that's where, like with my kitchen here, I'll definitely have a nicer kitchen than I would be able to pay for.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
It's freaking great. Like it's been wonderful. And my wife actually teaches at their school.
Oh, perfect.
So there's this great synergy, and I think tying it all together into community and craft and stuff. I think you're spot on with developing these courses and developing these communities around the ability to trade skill and knowledge
Yep.
really does
Yep.
help people feel better when they're feeling alone, like you said, like with the veterans and people who are just suddenly at lost and have no focus or anything.
Yeah. Well, it's even, I mean, anybody with a diagnosis or disability, they fall into loneliness because they feel so isolated. A lot of times people with depression, they feel like they're the only ones. It doesn't, they're not, because there are many people that have depression, but when you're in that depressive moment, you feel like you are the only one and nobody understands. When somebody has a panic attack, it just gets very lonely. It gets very isolating. So we need to trade that isolation with community. And one of the ways to do that is through different crafts, and woodworking to me is the best.
Yeah, I was actually just working with some people recently that their child had just got a diagnosis of autism, and they wanted to keep it on the down low. They don't want anybody to find out. And as you know, like, that's the wrong
That's
approach. Like,
old thinking. That's old thinking.
yeah, it's like when you look at the association in the research, you go, all of these conditions have depression and anxiety and
Yep.
suicide. You know, like they're and it's because you're like not accepting the fact that you have a diagnosis.
Yep.
I hate to
Yep.
say it.
No, it's true. Because a lot of people like to fight it. And when you fight it, that's usually when you're going to hurt yourself, when you're going to be in trouble. Because diagnoses don't go away. It's not like all of a sudden, I no longer have depression and I'm super happy all of the time and everything's okay. It's going to come in waves, and everything comes in waves. So it's better to realize that it's something that you have, not try to fight it or act like you don't have it. I'm not saying accept it, because some people give in when you accept, and you don't want to give in, but recognize that it's there. Recognize that it's something that you're going to have to deal with, just like everybody else does. And it's okay to talk about. I know a lot of times with men, we want to say nothing's wrong with us. We're perfect. We're great. Today was great. Nothing wrong happened at all. We need to change that mentality too. We need to be able to talk about what's going on. I'm not saying run out there on YouTube and tell everybody and cry and do all this kind of stuff, but talk to your close friends, talk to your family, and open up and let people know what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast. Even like I said, I grew up on a farm. I worked in the oil field. I'm one of the very few people that can call himself a doctor and also has a commercial driver's license.
That's
Like,
awesome.
There is there is a very much like hide it, rub some dirt on it, blah blah blah
Yep.
sort of perspective.
Yep.
But I recently shared a thing on my social media from Dr. Justin Colson out of Australia. I don't know if you know him at all or are familiar with him. He's a family therapist or family psychologist, and he showed, or his daughter asked him, like, how do you, or no, somebody asked him about Inside the Manosphere. It's a documentary apparently on Netflix about this rise of like manly man influencer type of people, and how you're not a real man unless you have a six pack and can bench a pickup truck, and like those type of people. And so there's this woman had asked him, like, well, what do I tell my daughters to look for a real man to avoid this toxic masculinity thing? And he said, I don't remember his exact words, but he basically said, look for the guy who's stacking the chairs. And I think it's a very profound. It's the guy at the end of the activity. Everybody else has gone out into the parking lot and is, looking at the other guy's car and burning donuts or whatever. But then there's those one or two guys in the back that are looking around going, oh, let's clean up. Let's stack the chairs.
Yep.
Let's, those are the real men out there. The rest of them are performers.
Yep. They're the peacocks.
Yeah.
They just want to show off and say that they're the best. But no, you're right. It's the people that are willing to serve others and willing to help other people out. That to me is a real man. If you're willing to help somebody and be there for somebody or help them clean up, even if it's something as simple as that, that's the most important thing. I kind of feel like that's why we're on the earth, is to help other people. And if you're not helping other people, then what's the point?
Yeah, and I think it, like I said in the pre-show, I'm religious, but I think it goes beyond God, whether you believe in God or whether you believe in evolution purely, that we're all here from just dust in the cosmos. Like we are communal people.
Mm-hmm.
and we are where we are because we have worked together, not because we have fought.
Yep. Yep.
You know, has is there tribes, and has tribalism caused a lot of violence, and whether that tribalism is political or religious? Absolutely.
Yep.
But the ultimate reason why those tribes develop is because we are trying to support one another. And so if we find I wonder if, like in the world today, I would be curious to see what would happen if there was an Iranian woodworker and a North American woodworker on one of your classes working together in something. I would be curious to how much more positive effect that would have in the world than all of the, social media flag waving sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more of I think of a lot of how it is with the climate of today. People have kind of stopped talking, and that's when you start to worry about things. I've seen a lot of the arguments just turn into yelling. But if we're able to work on something together and build that community together and just be with each other and communicate, even if it's not about religion or politics or anything, if you're able to just be with another person and communicate with them, that slowly breaks down those barriers or preconceived notions that people might have about either side. I definitely see crafts being a good way to kind of bridge the division that's going on.
Well, and I think like having talked to I on this podcast, this will be episode somewhere 105, 106, something like that. I'm not sure where this one's going to get released, but having talked to quite a few people just on this podcast, but then outside of the podcast, having literally talked to thousands of people at this point, like when I lived in Los Angeles, I lived in Alhambra and Baldwin Heights, and there was times when I was the only white guy for miles. And I worked with immigrants from Thailand and from Samoa, obviously lots of Spanish people, Koreans and Vietnamese, Chinese. I've literally been as far north as you can in North America. I've put my feet into the Arctic Ocean.
Nice.
I've been to the Pacific, I've been to the Atlantic, I've been all the way across Canada, I've been across the top half of the US. I've been a lot of places, talked to a lot of people, and there's far more that we have similarities on than we have differences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even most of the differences that we have really come down to, I believe the path to this point is a little bit different than you believe the path to this point. The point is still the same.
Yeah.
I still want to be happy. I still want people to be healthy, and I want my house, and I want to be comfortable.
Yep.
But we, when we get into those situations where we're forced to talk to people or confront them and work alongside them, that's when we go, oh yeah, I guess you're 99.9% the same as me.
Yeah, and everybody has different opinions. I think that's what's led to a lot of the division, is just everybody has different opinions on things. But you're right, they just want to be happy. But somebody else's opinion of being happy is this, and another person's is this, and I think we just need to recognize that people are going to have differences of opinion. But if you're still able to communicate, go about your life, have friends that have different opinions, then that's okay. But it's when we run into people saying, well, I'm not going to be your friend anymore, or I'm not going to talk to you anymore because of X, Y, or Z, or your opinion is X, Y, and Z on things. I think that's when we start getting into trouble, because everybody's going to have different opinions. So, but I still think that craft is going to be able to help with that, because you can spend more time with them, and even if not just swaying opinions, just getting into that community with another person.
Do you ever end up in those types of conflicts in your online courses and stuff like that, or where you have people start to argue about, maybe not politics, but just like how, because let's be honest, the internet's a very toxic place sometimes, and you present this is how you do it, there's going to be 15 people in the comments going, well, that's how stupid people do it, or
99% of woodworking is preference. 99% of woodworking is preference. Do you cut your dovetails this way? Do you do pins first, tails first? Do you cut out your waist? Do you chop out your waist? Do you like Veritas? Do you like lean? 99% of woodworking is preference. I've only ever had one student that was slightly combative, where they thought they knew more than the teacher. And that was kind of interesting to deal with, because we never really had that before. I think we have the benefit of the whole point of our charity is these classes and to help people with diagnoses and disabilities. So I think people go into the class knowing that we are trying to do a good thing, and they don't try to argue or be combative. But we have had discussions of, well, I like using shellac. Well, I don't like using shellac. I like tung oil. Well, somebody else likes Danish oil. And then we kind of have a discussion of, why do you like this or why do you like that? And I think that's healthy. That's good for people to learn about and hear about so they can go try them out and then form their own opinion.
Yeah, and you can still come away, and that's the weird thing. It's like stuff like finishing preferences.
Yeah, they're highly debated online. Keyboard warriors.
You can still come away with the same opinion. You know,
Yep.
like I still like shellac.
Yep.
Why can't we apply that to a broader range of subjects, right?
Yeah.
Like, does it really make a difference if I believe Fords are better than Chevys or vice versa or whatever? And I don't know. I don't know if it makes... I guess the solution to the world's problems is everybody needs to do more spoon carving, right?
I agree.
That's
Absolutely.
the takeaway.
Absolutely. They need to get their hands more involved in crafts than their brains on politics. Because, I mean, I have some friends that all they do all day is watch the news. I'm like, how can you do that and still be happy at the end of the day? You can't change anything. If you want to try to change it, go be a politician. Go, run for office or something like that. But we're too small to really do anything about it. The government thinks I'm just a number. They don't know my name. They probably know my income because they know my taxes. But, we're too small to do anything. So let's just get involved in crafts. Let's enjoy the lives that we have.
They'll know your name the moment you stop paying taxes.
Very true. Very true. Then they'll come knocking at the door.
Yep. Mr. Harpster.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been a good conversation. I've enjoyed it. What do you have to promote before we hang up here?
Ooh, trying to think we're adding I think we just added 9 new teachers.
Awesome.
So really go check out classes if anybody's interested in taking courses. Again, if you have a diagnosis or disability, it's free. If you don't have a diagnosis or disability, you can pay for the courses. That makes us be able to keep operating. I'm also looking for more course moderators. Course moderators, what they get to do is they manage the Zoom link, change camera angles, keeping an eye on the chat while learning at the same time. So we definitely need more moderators because with more teachers, you need more moderators. And then Hand Tool Haven. Come out to Hand Tool Haven, Butler, Pennsylvania, May 16th and 17th of this year. Was that good?
Perfect. So I was just going to add, with the exclusive Workshop Therapy Podcast coupon code, if you have a disability, mental disorder, you can get a free course.
Yep. Only through here. Only if you hear from the podcast.
Exactly. And also with the discount code, if you don't have any of those issues, you can pay full price.
Yep.
And if you add Workshop Therapy Podcast 10, you can probably leave a 10% tip as well.
I like that. I'm going to see. I don't know if our system can do that, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Go check out Plain Wellness.
.org.
Sign up for a course.
Yep.
Multiple courses, all the courses.
Yeah.
All of your disposable income, because it helps connect people and it helps people develop self-efficacy.
Yes. Peace, joy, and accomplishment in community.
Perfect. I was going to say the trifecta, but that's 4 things.
Quadfecta.
Peace, joy, accomplishment. A quadfecta.
Quadfecta. Is that a thing? Somebody look that up and let us know.
It is now.
It is now.
Although, to be honest, quadfecta kind of sounds like a disease.
It does sound like a disease. Well, then we'll just go with the trifecta. Community's a given.
Yeah, there we go. You don't want a quadfecta. That's really bad.
No. Yeah, that's not right.
Anyway, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you on the social medias?
Plain Wellness, everything. Facebook is whatever it is /Plain Wellness. Instagram is all one word, also Plain Wellness, or www.plainwellness.org or handtoolhaven.org. Those are 2 different websites.
Okay. And Plain Wellness is PLANE.
PLANE. Oh, it's not. It's a podcast. Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot the video.
And the fit for this audio podcast is...
There we go. Yes, PLANE wellness.org.
I'll use you lifting your shirt up as like the thumbnail.
That's perfect.
People,
right there.
You look like, what's his name?
The trash can guy from the big yellow bird and the green guy in the trash can.
Oh, Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah. No, I was thinking, what's his name? Wilson from that Tim
Castaway?
Taylor. No, Tim Taylor, the Home Improvement from the 90s.
I was born 1990, so I don't know that I'm going to know that one.
That makes me feel old.
Cut the video before this.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
on that great disappointment, let's head over to the after show.
Perfect.